Yes, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the January. I'm getting an echo on my left. Okay, the January Strategic Planning Committee. Can you mute your? Oh no, I'll continue. Right, item 1 on the agenda, apologies for absence and appointment of substitute members, please.
Through you, Chair, we have apologies from Councillor Anne Addison.
Okay, thank you. Do any members here have a declaration of interest of the application that we're considering this afternoon? If so, please declare it. Yes, off his laptop there. Right, he's muted his laptop. Okay. He's now left the meeting, so there should be no echo. Okay, sorry, back. We've done the declaration of interest. Now we declared an interest. Chairman's announcement. Under the Openness of Local Government Bodies Regulation 2014, members of the public or those party to the meeting are permitted to film, broadcast or report on the meeting, subject to the efficient running of the meeting not being affected. Only those people who have registered in line with the committee's speaking procedure can address the committee. Those speaking are not permitted to ask questions of either members or officers. Members of the public are requested not to call out during the committee's discussion on any item. All speakers will have 5 minutes in which to make their statement. Participants addressing the planning committee will be advised when they have 60 seconds of their allocated time remaining and will be expected to cease talking immediately on being advised that their time is up. Speakers may be asked to remain seated after they have addressed the committee to answer questions from the planning committee members. There are no planned fire drills, so if the alarm does sound, evacuation instructions will be given by democratic officers, and the assembly point is the bottom of the steps on the mount. That's the green hill over to your left. Could all electronic devices please be switched off or onto silent mode? For those members using laptops, could I ask that they press F1 on their machines and a blue light will come on indicating the sound is muted. This meeting will be broadcast on the council's corporate YouTube channel. Therefore, when speaking, please use your microphones. I think that is the announcements. For the benefit of the members of the committee, we will be having a site visit, as I've already advised you, on Tuesday, the 16th of this month, and it's to do with the SEND school at Tiffield. So it's quite an important visit, and I'd encourage as many of you to come along to that as possible. Before we begin the application presentation from the officer, I'll introduce the top table for the benefit of those that are on YouTube. On the far right is Nikki Scaife, the Senior Planning Officer. Next to her is Diana Davis from Democratic Services. On my immediate right is Catherine Hall from the legal team. I'm Councillor Phil Bignell, Chairman of this committee. On my left is James Roger, who's a Senior Planning Officer. Next to him is Andrew Longbottom, who will present the case this afternoon. Then Hayley Usher from our Highways Department. And at the end, Steve Bibb, who is an expert on highways. So without further ado, I would ask Andrew Longbottom to join the meeting and present the application before us. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.
We've still got echo issue on his laptop. Can we? needs that, but
How do I do that?
go to the microphone and on the Zoom bit. There should be a microphone, shouldn't it?
One, two.
Right. Well, it was just messaging. If you want to go and fetch him, that could be helpful, yes. Yeah, it's just through, yeah. Not yet, but you could. Yeah, cheers, thank you.
Are you out? Are you in Zoom?
Doesn't make sense. It's just telling us everything's off, so it's a bit of an odd one.
No, you have to use the mic for it to go through to the YouTube channel. So we don't use these mics, it doesn't pick it up. And that's for the audio feed for the YouTube channel.
I think I've done it.
Good effort.
We,
Wait, we can't start without him.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, we just need to get out.
Cool. Ah. I'm going to keep that a secret. and I hope there's no other presenters. Right, thank you,
Right.
Councillor Parker, for that. Right, Andrew, continue, please.
Thank you, Chair. So the site we're looking at today is the Mercedes Formula One headquarters in Brackley, which is outlined in red on the plan. So just to orientate members to where we are, this is the A43 that runs to the south of the site before turning south towards Evenley. And then you've got the Oxford Road that comes into Brackley and the roundabout here, which goes, one arm goes to Tesco's, the other arm is the main access to the existing main access to the Mercedes site. To the north of the site, you've got St James Road, which serves a number of industrial units. And to the north of the site here, you've got as part of Boundary Road Industrial Estate. And this is the Brackley Town Football Club here. So in terms of the constraints of the site, you've got the town confines which run to the south of the site. We've got some TPOs, we've got a group TPO here and here, but also two individual TPOs. The green dots here, this one has been removed some time ago when this building was constructed, but this one is still evident on site. Also, the light green area is designated as a potential wildlife zone. So the site is the Mercedes Formula One headquarters in Brackley, and it's where the Formula One car is designed and constructed and where the base of operations is for the races throughout the season. Also, other advanced engineering works on projects such as America's Cup is undertaken on site. Coming to the site is a single point of access through Lauder Drive off Oxford Road, with parking associated with that around the front of these buildings here and here, and a multi-storey car park which is shown here. The site currently employs around 1,400 people. However, the applicants have a desire to increase the workforce of the site to 1,900 people over the next 5 years. So the application we're considering today is a hybrid application, i.e. some of the proposals are being applied for in outline form, with access only being applied for as part of the outline, and some of the application is for full planning permission. So looking at the outline application first, these areas are shown in pink on the plan. The first part is the new marketing building here at the entrance to the site, which obviously a very prominent location at the entrance, not only to the Mercedes site, but obviously to Brackley itself. And that's up to 3 stories in height. There's an extension to building 1 here, which is up to 2 stories in height. A new health and well-being building here, which is up to 3 stories in height again, and an extension to building 5, which is up to 2 stories in height. The site also seeks full planning permission for the following: a new multi-level car park here for 659 spaces. And in order to facilitate that, it requires a demolition of 2 dwellings, which are located in this corner here on the site. It also proposes the making of the existing temporary car park granted planning permission last year for 156 parking spaces into a permanent feature. This would be used by Mercedes during the day, but on the evenings and match days, it will be used by Brackley Town Football Club. It also proposes in this central area and carrying on through towards the main office building, the removal of the car parking and the replacement of it with high quality landscaping to create more of a park campus environment for the development. And it includes a new pedestrian access shown here across the river, and a new provision of a new access from the site onto St James Road. So looking at the outline buildings, first of all, obviously these are in outline form at the moment, so we don't have any detailed designs for them. They will be coming in a future reserved matters application. But first of all, looking at the marketing building here, which is up to 15.3 meters in height, and you can see how it relates to the existing buildings on site. The sort of leaves and ridgeline match up with the existing buildings. There is a small element of plant and equipment which might be located on the top of the site. And again, the other largest building on site would be the new hub building, again, which is equivalent in height to existing buildings on site. The existing building here, Unit 2 and Unit 5, again, is approximately the same height as we saw on site. So this is one of the landscaping plans, and this deals with the central area, which is the largest area of landscaping, which is going to be changed from parking as part of the application. The works in this central area include some additional tree planting, some external seating area and working areas, as shown here and here, a kiosk building, additional tree planting and grass planting, and also a covered walkway which runs through the centre of the site, which will have photovoltaic panels on its roof. And I've got some more images of that to show you later on in the presentation. This is the new pedestrian bridge which goes across the river. You can see it's quite simple in its design, again with a covered walkway across it to provide shelter for pedestrians and cyclists. So this is the new proposed multi-level car park shown in this part of the site, and it's just to the rear of the main office building. And just to show how that's been delivered on site, I'll show you one of the cross sections. So at the moment, you've got the disused railway line, and this red line we can see here denotes the existing ground levels. You can see it dips down to the old bed of the railway here. And this is being utilised to create 2 different levels. So on the lower level here, you'll have some car parking in this area here and some car parking above here. But a large part of the car park here is actually still at grade level for the existing ground, so just to the north of this area. And it also includes some structures here which will cover the majority of the car park and will be covered in photovoltaic cells as well. In terms of its height, you can see it's actually no higher than the existing main office building on the site. So looking at this plan, you can see the different elevations. So this is the south elevation, which is the only point from which really, in fact, these two levels will be visible. And this is the view from within the site itself, from this area here. And it shows us sort of the deck level, probably about 3.5 meters above the existing ground level, and then another levels for the canopy buildings, which would add about another 4.2 meters in height. This plan here shows the canopy coverage for the multi-level car park, and this is area in dark grey, which shows the extent of the canopy cover and the photovoltaic cover for the car park. Also, one of the proposals, part of the application, is to create this new access from St James Road, which will create a new gated area here with sort of new security barrier here with a gatehouse here and a new drop curb at this point here. It's proposed that this access will be used for accessing for the employees between the hours of 7 o'clock in the morning and 10 o'clock in the morning, and again between 4 p.m. and 7 p.m. that access will be closed at other times. So as part of that new access onto the James Road, some extra works are needed. So there'll be a new existing drop curb that will be needed here. And the security barrier again will be shown located here. There is proposed a section 106 to secure some additional parking restrictions on St James Road. However, that scheme hasn't been designed yet. So the WO lines here shown on the plan should be seen as only indicative at this time. So in order to make the development acceptable, some highway works are required off-site and as part of the proposed part of the development. This includes the slight widening here of Oxford Road and the increase in length of the right turn lane here. And instead of being able to accommodate 5 cars, that will be able to accommodate 7 cars. This plan here also shows the fire station here and the police station here. And it's proposed that a yellow hatched box will be located in these areas to ensure the access is kept clear for the emergency vehicles. Again, some further works are required to the Tesco Oxford Road Lauder Drive roundabout. This includes removing some of the curb lining here to create 2 accesses through the 2 entrances into the roundabout, some changes to the overrun area here to reduce that in size to allow the cars to move through the roundabout, and increasing the width of this access of this roundabout here to again to allow 2 cars width to go through that roundabout. The off-site highway works are secured through a planning condition. The applicants have also provided some computer generated images of what the development will look like once it's completed. And you can see from this drawing some of the roofscapes of these development. This is the new proposed marketing building here and the hub building, and you see the proposed landscaping to the centre here. Again, similar thing shown from the other end of the site. Again, you've got the marketing building here, the hub building, and some more landscaping through here, and the canopy that goes over the top of the proposed multi-level car park. Again, this shows in more detail some of the proposed landscaping associated with the development and the walk link through. This is the proposed hub, and the marketing building is the far end, and that's Tesco's at the far end here. Again, in more detail shown from the other end, the walk through some of these communal areas where people can walk and work outside. Again, this shows more from a ground level perspective, the walkway through the site. Written updates have already been provided to the members. However, a further representation has been received from Brackley Town Council this morning. And whilst not changing their position of no objection to the application, they have agreed to forward on the concerns of local residents. These being, there's been a lack of dialogue between Mercedes and the tenants affected by their proposals. Real-time traffic movements experienced by residents do not align with traffic data. It's not clear how planning permission can be granted on the basis of a traffic regulation order that in itself requires permission. Whilst it's understood there's a provision of yellow boxes for unrestricted emergency access, it is unclear how retained fire crew would arrive safely at the site in the event of traffic queues. The application is recommended for approval subject to conditions and a Section 106 agreement for financial contribution for the additional parking restriction on St James Road and a fee for the monitoring of the travel plan. However, I think James Roger wants to add to the presentation.
Yes. Officers have fully considered concerns raised by local businesses. This is regards to traffic and parking impacts in determining the application, and sought to address such concerns as far as possible. And this is set out in detail in the committee report in paragraphs 811 through to 850. West Northamptonshire, due to the location of Silverstone, has attracted a number of businesses that are involved in high-end automotive performance engineering. The cluster of such businesses is of national significance. This application is anticipated to create 500 additional jobs. It should be noted that such job creation and investment would be expected to also have trickle-down benefits to local small businesses. The point I wish to stress to the committee is that when considering the different weighting to be given to material planning considerations relevant to consideration of this particular planning application, your officers consider that substantial weighting should be given to the economic development benefits of these proposals. Thank you, Chairman.
Yes, thank you, James. It's now time for members to question the officers on his presentation. This is not a time to debate, merely to ask questions of fact to the officers. Members, your floor. Councillor Herring.
Is it okay to ask the highways people rather than or is it just for the officer?
No, you can ask if it's a matter of fact, then please ask away.
We went as far as the alterations for the Tesco roundabout, but one of the concerns I've got is actually the knock-on effect to the actual A43 roundabout, because using that almost daily, there is a difficulty because it's controlled by traffic lights. If you're actually going to go right onto the A43 heading towards Bicester and the A40, there's only room for about 3 or 4 cars to be in that waiting space before they're blocking the roundabout. And I just wondered whether the impact of mass evacuation of the cars as they come out at reasonably fixed times from Mercedes and the increased traffic, whether that's been assessed, the difficulties of that have been assessed or not. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, we have. The applicant has undertaken testing and modelling of the roundabout at the peak times, and we've reviewed those. And both ourselves and National Highways have scrutinised those, and we're happy with the results. And looking at the results in the PM peak, we haven't identified any issues, and we've looked at the junction in conjunction with the Oxford Road roundabout as well to make sure that queuing from both roundabouts don't back up into each other. So we're satisfied with those, and also the internal operation of the roundabout circulatory as well.
Okay. Councillor Stone, please.
I've got a bit of a, thank you. I've got a bit of a concern about air quality. How are we going to ensure that the good air quality existing in Brackley is going to be maintained? And do you think it would be helpful for us to have a no idling policy to make sure that any backup of traffic around those 2 roundabouts are not idling and pumping out pollution?
We have consulted the Environmental Health Department about air quality, and we do have some air quality monitoring equipment in Brackley, and this shows that the quality of air in Brackley is very good. But I mean, it might be that the development does create some degradation of the air quality, but it won't be to the point where it's going to cause an issue. So there's no objection on those grounds.
James?
So I just wanted to mention an interrelated factor, which I think is of relevance when considering air quality. And it's paragraph 8.46, I'm going to cross-reference, which is officers have worked with the applicant on a sort of draft travel plan. And that travel plan is multi-layered, so it does include a whole raft of things. And paragraph 8.46 sort of sets them out. This is to do with electric vehicle charging, e-scooter trial, bicycle storage, access to lockers and showers. So it's just, and obviously the planning obligations, we're seeking a monitoring fee because this is going to be a quite big piece of work, this travel plan we envisage. It's just to highlight, I would envisage that travel plan would actually in itself have benefits that partly address the point that you're raising, councillor.
Could I just come back on that?
You
1
can.
minute, Chair. I think that's really good and I'm pleased about that. But, you know, we're facing a bit of a crisis in terms of health and issues related to respiratory disease and asthma in children. So I think I would be a bit more reassured if we were monitoring the incidence of that as well. So if we benchmarked it from now, do you know what I mean? I think there needs to be some kind of monitoring put in place for that. And it might be something that the area lab might be interested in, the local area partnership.
Who wants that one? Do you want to comment on health monitoring?
I know we do have what we call tubes that monitor air quality located in the town, and we also are monitoring the air quality all the time, actually, in Brackley. So that's always ongoing.
The reason I was raising it further was because we know that not everything gets monitored, and we know that particulates are, you know, we only need a low level to cause damage. So I think some form of monitoring on health in the population is quite an important thing to put in.
Thank you. Sorry, I thought I saw Councillor Herring first, but one of you two.
Just on the travel plan, I just wondered whether I know that the council is looking at a cycleway between Silverstone and Brackley, but I wondered whether any consideration had been given to extending that so that for direct access to the Mercedes site.
Andrew? Sorry, highways down the Foreign, sorry.
I mean, currently at the moment, we didn't have any firm plans for it to be included. Mercedes at the moment are extending the footway cycleway to I can't remember the name of the road off the top of my head. It's the one, the small industrial estate just before St James Road, because we asked them to do this because it was a safer point of access onto the carriageway than existing. But there's no plans at the moment. I know the LC Whip is looking at a joined up cycleway on the other side of the road, and perhaps something that we can do to join up with that at a later date. But that hadn't been decided before we looked at the application. Okay.
Councillor Humphries, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just going back to air quality, Andrew, you say in your, I think it's 8.70, there's no reason to consider that air quality will fall below objective, the objective levels. Has that been done as a calculation, or is just that your sort of conjecture?
It's taken from the comments of our environmental health officers,
I see.
who are the experts, and we
Yeah.
have one environmental health officer who is expert on in air quality, and so he's taken from our comments.
Okay, thank you. And my other comment, the travel plans intending to achieve a 3 to 5% target reduction in car usage, and that's well below the council's normal targets. It does seem a very modest target, but that there are particular factors in that potential employees and current employees are travelling from some distance. What are our usual targets on that, just out of interest?
I mean, the usual target, as you said, is a 20% reduction.
20%. Sorry.
Sorry, 10% reduction.
10, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. And so we worked with Mercedes and we looked at the feasibility of that and where people travelled from, the distances that they travelled, and the type of people. It's not the same as a normal commercial workspace where people are based more locally. So we're working with them through the travel plan to try and that's the sort of minimum that we're requiring, but they have got some things in place which hopefully will increase that number, that percentage. They're looking at different things like car sharing and different schemes within that, and that's why we've asked for the monitoring of the travel plan to help assist with that figure. But it seemed that to put in that higher figure would have been unrealistic based on the distances that the people travel, these specialists and engineers, which base themselves all in the locality but they're not on the doorstep, the same as other businesses would be in this type of sort of units.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Gonzalez Savage first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Couple of questions, if I may. Quite clearly, the majority of employees will be coming some distance, and they will be exceeding the 15 miles. Effectively, I looked at the papers that we have for us. On that basis, any travel measures from a travel plan that involve very much local walking, cycling, or e-scooters, etc. I honestly wouldn't think be highly effective in terms of reducing those numbers of impact locally. That's a position, obviously, I appreciate you said it would be unrealistic to put a pressure of 20% onto the reduction of vehicle movements. But the vehicle movements will be split between St James Road and Lauder Drive. And quite clearly, St James Road is the problem, because as much as we support Mercedes developing and certainly ensuring that they have a strong brand and a great sector that they're within, and we're very proud to have that as Motorsport Valley in Northamptonshire and certainly in West Northamptonshire with the circuit around us, we do appreciate that we should also be encouraging small businesses to do well also. And I think this is something where we shouldn't disadvantage businesses in the St James area or other areas around by ensuring that there is a multi-access point here. Is there no way we could absolutely...
Just trying to get to the question.
Sure, definitely. Is there no way we could absolutely work with Mercedes to encourage them to flow the traffic through Lauder Drive and connect with a multi-storey car park within that environment? So using that as their principal entrance, principal and only entrance, possibly emergency exit on the other side, absolutely. But having that as their principal entrance and routing all their traffic through Lauder Drive, and therefore not constraining or having to introduce yellow line systems, etc., that would offset car parking for other areas on an alternative piece of land.
It's close to a question. Highways, or do you want to take it, Andrew?
I was just going to initially make a comment that listening carefully to what Councillor said, sounds like it's an alternative proposal, and obviously we do need to determine the proposal before us. So I just wanted to say that point before I pass to Highways colleagues.
I was going to say the same thing in the fact that we can only assess what's put before us. The request is that they use St James Road. They have an access already of St James Road, which they can legally use. This is an intensification of the usage for that, which is why we've had to look at it in detail. But they do have a right to use that access. And the decision is with the Mercedes site on what they're putting forward. Basically, I can't change and insist that they use a different access. That needs to be something that they work out themselves.
Thank you. I'll put that question to them when the applicant when it comes through. Thank you.
Okay, councillors, remembering this is a question time.
Yes, there's no mention of any access or any availability of public transport here. So do you know if there's going to be public transport laid on, especially at busy times, or for office workers who actually don't have access to vehicles and cars locally?
There are bus stops in the locality, which serve Brackley generally, and they're not too far distant walk from the site. The issue we have is where they come from and how frequently they operate. So for people who are doing complex journeys from other areas, because this is more of a regional business rather than a local business, it would be very difficult for them to use public transport to get any access to the site. Some people will, it work for them, but for a large number of people, it won't be a workable solution for them. So instead of looking at the bus services, what we're looking at is sort of car share instead, and that would be a more effective way of getting people out of individual car journeys.
Councillor Manners, please.
Thank you, Chair. Can I ask Hayley or Steve, the transport assessment that shows an AM peak hour of 473 movements, is that based on evidence from the existing travel movements to the site in the early morning and later in the evening?
Oh, yes, the applicant had undertaken surveys in 2022 of the traffic conditions on the nearby network and trips to and from the development site, and they've used that to determine that was
outside COVID?
That was outside of COVID, yes. Yeah, it was normal operating conditions. And they were used to determine the trip rates for the site, which has subsequently been growth to reflect the growth in the site.
Because I mean, my concern is that the turning into St James's Road, really, and the 5 moving to the 7 spaces that are going to be available, and if that increases over in that 8 cars a minute or whatever it is, then there will be a real bottleneck there. And I just want to be reassured that you've really interrogated that data. And particularly when we talk about going from 1,400 people on site to 1,900, it doesn't seem to be that foolproof.
No, so what we've done is we've asked the applicant to undertake a number of junction capacity tests at that location, following different techniques, and we'd asked them to assess it in 15-minute intervals based on the survey input and the modelling software. That's the minimum period it allows you to model, and from that's where we'd identified, by applying the growth in traffic, the proposed development flows, that's how we'd identified that need to extend the right turn into the site. I think the site, I think it predicted 6, a maximum of 6, and they've extended it to 7. So there's a little bit of extra capacity in there as well. And of course, that's been based on the worst 15-minute period within an hour rather than across a whole hour. So despite that little intense period, it will even out across the hour. So we're satisfied that they've provided what was required for the site.
Thank you, Steve. Councillor Pritchard, question.
Thank you, Chair. Quite concerned with regards to, and after doing a site visit earlier this week, with regards to the location of the fire services and also the police services. Could you explain more fully with regards to what actually is going to happen? Because obviously it is the access with regards to the fire engines and police cars getting out onto St James's and so on, but also has any consideration given, and I presume that the fire station is a retained fire station. And then what has to happen, of course, is the people manning the fire engines and emergency services have to get to those locations before they can actually access them. So what sort of, could you please explain more fully what actually provisions have been made for those emergency services?
I mean, the emergency services have been consulted as well. And as far as we're aware, there's no, any objections that were raised initially by the emergency services have been overcome. The fact that there's only one 15-minute period within the peak times where there will be a queue back in the slip to St James Road. It's just one 15-minute period throughout the day, where you'll have almost at capacity. We're looking at putting the yellow box in, which will stop vehicles being able to park at the axis if there is any queuing or manoeuvring. If vehicles are coming out of St James Road, it will stop vehicles parking and blocking the emergency services access. Staff there shouldn't be any issues that we can see with any staff being able to get to it, because, you know, Mercedes have mitigated for their own staff to make it easier to get into St James Road, and that will count for anybody that requires access to St James Road.
But with the significant increase of traffic in that particular area, you say that there's going to be a congestion point for 15 minutes. Sod's Law always says that when the 15 minutes actually situation is there, an emergency service is required.
So again, we've reviewed the modelling for this junction, and again, we'd review that in those 15-minute intervals. The maximum queue that occurred in the PM peak, based on the model, was a two-car queue. The traffic flows on the road aren't so significant that traffic can't get out of onto Oxford Road, so don't envisage a significant queue forming. And again, as Hayley says, that information has been shared with the police and the fire service for their views as well.
Has any consideration been given to things like a roundabout there or a traffic lights or anything? Because when you extend from 5 cars to 7 cars, is that really going to be enough?
So we had looked at or had considered at a higher level other alternatives in terms of mitigation, both roundabout and traffic signals. But with both of those, with the flows being what they were, they wouldn't perform as well as a priority junction. So for example, traffic signals would actually stop traffic on Oxford Road to let traffic on St James Road to get out. And that would incur more queuing on Oxford Road with both the traffic signals and a roundabout. So it was felt that in terms of impact from the development, this was the better of those options.
And also, was any consideration given with regards to HGVs getting into the builders, merchants and all the other access areas there?
It was, yes. The applicant had undertaken swept path manoeuvres showing how a vehicle moves along the road and to and through the site to demonstrate that movement can still be maintained.
You said the applicants has carried out all these surveys. What surveys have you actually done with regards to actually confirming what their findings are?
So, the applicants undertaken observation surveys to determine what parking is on site, as well as physical measurements of the road and, as I say, swept path movements. We've checked that, and I know Hayley and her team have been to site as well to validate those observations.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions before we move on? Okay, we'll now move to the speakers, and we have, I believe, 3 speakers registered to speak. So I'd invite Simon Wheeler as an objector to come to the front. Yes, please take a seat there, make yourself comfortable. Draw the microphone close to you because it's not that sensitive. Press the red button, but to bring it closer to you. I'll indicate when 4 minutes is gone, so I'll give you a warning, but you have 5 minutes commencing now. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the Strategic Planning Committee. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak. My name is Simon Wheeler. I am the Managing Director of Canonbury Products, located at Warwick House on St James's Road, the largest single occupancy building along that road. I speak on behalf of Canonbury as well as the other occupiers and landlords on St James's Road with whom I'm in close contact. Canonbury has over 30 employees and has occupied various different units on St James Road as the business has successfully expanded over time. The location, nature and availability of suitable business units along St James Road has enabled Canonbury to remain in Brackley, contributing to the local economy, and the same is true of several of the other neighbouring businesses. First and foremost, we are extremely disappointed that Mercedes have not contacted us to discuss their proposals. In the past, we have helped Mercedes by allowing them to put a pedestrian gate in our border fence whilst occupying an earlier property, which they now occupy. I had thought we had a good working relationship with Mercedes as neighbours, but this goodwill seems to have been forgotten, and ourselves and the other businesses along St James Road feel completely sidelined in the entire planning process. We do not believe there has been sufficient information provided by Mercedes to justify the use of St James's Road, other than to provide a more attractive landscape campus for their employees. Mercedes already have a perfectly good and purpose-built access route. Why can this not be used? The need to switch the majority of their traffic movements to St James Road, which was designed as a cul-de-sac, not a thoroughfare, has not, in our view, been robustly justified and is unacceptable. It is estimated there will be 528 car movements in the peak AM hour alone as a result of the proposals, with 8 vehicles entering the Mercedes site every minute. We contend that the volume of traffic movements has been underestimated, and we question whether the analysis has robustly factored in traffic movements associated with the St James Road businesses, particularly when they are operating at full capacity. Indeed, there are currently 2 units vacant at present, and many of the existing businesses are still not operating at full capacity due to the after effects of COVID and the current economic climate. Notwithstanding this, the sheer volume of Mercedes traffic, which is planned to use St James Road, will inevitably cause queuing and disruption. No consideration or assessment of the existing conditions along St James Road has been made, which is wholly unacceptable. The businesses on St James Road receive frequent deliveries, and our employees and visitors regularly have to use the on-street parking, which will disappear if a traffic regulation order with double yellow lines is allowed. Where should double yellow lines be implemented, are employees and visitors of businesses in St James Road to park when there are already insufficient parking spaces? Are they to park in surrounding residential areas? Furthermore, we are extremely concerned that our timely deliveries will be impacted, that our employees will be unable to get to work on time, and when leaving work, our employees will be late to pick up their children as they will likely be stuck in a queue of Mercedes traffic. In our experience, we are likely to lose valuable employees if this occurs. Therefore, the impact on ourselves and the other businesses is immense, yet has been completely underestimated and ignored. Even with the measures in Mercedes parking management plan, we believe the volume of traffic, coupled with HGVs, courier deliveries, and large HGVs manoeuvring in the turning head at the end of the road will result in a significant risk to highway safety, whereby a serious accident will be waiting to happen. In its current form, the application, we believe, is contrary to the National Planning Policy Framework. We are supporters of the local economy, and ordinarily we do not want to stop an existing business expanding Brackley. Despite a recommendation from the Council's Economic Development Officer, there is no mechanism in the proposed legal agreement to secure local economic benefits.
You have 1 more minute, sir.
We believe this application will generally not provide local employment opportunities, and we are fearful that our businesses will suffer, which will ultimately result in a negative impact on the local economy through a reduction in the diversity of employment opportunities, which are currently offered via the differing businesses operating St James Road. We therefore ask you to defer making a decision on this application until Mercedes has properly consulted with local businesses and until appropriate mitigation measures have been agreed in consultation with businesses along St James's Road. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time, Mr. Wheeler. If you'd like to remain seated, members, it's your opportunity to ask Mr. Wheeler any questions you may have. Councillor Stone, please.
Thank you very much for that presentation. What do you think the alternative would be?
Frankly, I'd like to agree with one of the councillors over there. I don't understand why Mercedes see the need to move from Lauder Drive at all. Lauder Drive is a dedicated access. It's been there ever since I've been within St James's Road, which is now coming up for about 20 years. I don't see the necessity of this. As I said, we previously occupied the building at the very end of St James's Road, which is where Mercedes planned to bring the traffic through. So we know the site intimately.
Thank you. Any more questions from members? Okay, thank you, Mr. Wheeler.
Thank you, Chair.
I now invite Nick Penny to come forward and take the seat, please. I believe the microphone's already on, so if you just draw it closer to you, then. Yeah, it is.
There we
now,
go.
sorry.
Okay.
So you have 5 minutes and I'll give you a 1-minute warning, sir. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the Planning Committee. My name's Nick Pinney. I'm Group Property Director at Travis Perkins, who have a branch on St James's Road, Brackley. This branch is located at the eastern end of St James's Road, which neighbours the proposals being considered today. Specifically, the branch is located next to the St James Road access gate into the proposed car park. We've been liaising with local businesses, and our concerns are predominantly centred around highways matters and the implications that this can have on the local and strategic highway network, as well as our operation. No information has been provided that we've been made aware of that suitably addresses the potential for queuing along St James's Road during the arrival time. The car park management plan states that a member of staff will be placed at the access to expedite access during the busy periods. However, this is an anecdotal solution with no evidence provided to support the claim to a potential severe traffic concern. This will particularly impact Travis Perkins as their access is closest to the proposed Mercedes access. Further, the arrival time is stated as 7 AM to 10 AM, which conflicts with Travis Perkins' branch's opening time of 7:30. The morning period not only sees the arrival of TP staff members, but also tradespeople who collect building materials on their way to construction sites. And 7:30 to 9:30 is typically the busiest time of day for a TP branch. It's also in terms of incoming and outbound HGV deliveries, the busiest time. This will combine with an estimated 528 car movements in the peak AM hour alone as a result of the proposals. It's therefore a concern that the potential for queuing along St James's Road has not been properly assessed, or at least the results of which have not been made public. Finally, we are not aware that the occurrence of 180 instances of obstructive parking used to calculate parking requirements has been justified or evidenced. This is not a robust approach, and this could result in further impacts on the highway network. Together, we feel that these highways matters have not been fully considered and or justified, which may lead to an unacceptable impact on both the highway network and existing businesses on St James's Road. We therefore request that these matters are fully considered and resolved prior to approving this planning application, which can result in a revised scheme access that minimises the overall impact on St James's Road. At the least, we request appropriately worded conditions are added if members are minded to approve the planning application. Thank you for your time.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Penny. We'd like to remain seated. Members, do you have any questions? Yes, Councillor Humphreys.
Thank you very much. Out of interest, you're mentioning your busiest time is between 7:30 and 9:30. Can you give us an indication how many vehicles, visitors, etc., you might get in that 2-hour period? You've mentioned your employees arrive and you've got trade deliveries plus tradespeople.
So we've probably got 6 to 8 employees coming during that time. We have somewhere between 70 and 100 customers through the day. Some of those will come multiple times. The majority of those would come in that morning slot. In terms of HGVs, typically we'll have, probably during that slot, one of our own HGVs leaving the site, probably returning for another fill. And then suppliers delivering the products to the branch, and they, as much as we try and control the time they come, you can get 2 or 3 appearing if you're unlucky at the same time, but that's sort of spread out through the week.
Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Gonzalez de Savage.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Pinning, good afternoon. Thank you for being here today and giving us an overview of your operations quite clearly. Can you tell me, you're obviously predicting, I would imagine, a growth in business, so therefore you would imagine there'll be more than those vehicle movements and staff in the future go through. And have you had any contact yourself? Have you made any proactive contact with Mercedes anywhere at all in reference to this application?
Yes, clearly we aim to grow the business, and that's what we're there for. And we'd love to see that number well over 100. In terms of contact with Mercedes, we have attempted to contact them, but we've been unsuccessful.
Thank you. Can you just clarify how you've been unsuccessful? Have they not returned your calls? Have they not returned your correspondence?
We have probably need to consult with a colleague over there, but we've sent them emails to attempt to arrange a meeting, and we have not heard back.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else got a question for Mr. Penny? Okay, thank you, Mr. Penny.
Thank you.
I now invite Ian Smith, who is representing Mercedes, the applicant, to come forward, please. Yes, I will allow that, but I would remind you that all answers should come through you as the designated speaker. You can consult with your colleague to obtain an answer which is credible. So you again have 5 minutes. You bring the microphone nearer to you, and I'll give you the appropriate warnings. Thank you.
Is that on? Yes. Chairman, councillors, thank you for allowing me to address you this afternoon. My name is Ian Smith. I'm a development manager for Mercedes Formula One. I'd like first to thank officers who, since this application, has sought to work with us in a positive and proactive way, which has resulted in the recommendation to permit. The Mercedes-AMG Petronas Formula One team are one of the world's most successful teams, and over the past decade, the team has won 8 consecutive Constructors' World Championships and 7 consecutive Drivers' World Championships. Sets a new benchmark in the sport's history. The company was established in Brackley in 1998 and is one of the largest employers within the town. The success of the team has led to continuous growth over the last 5 years, with the company diversifying its operations to include the design and manufacture of the next British America's Cup Challenger, together with the Ineos Britannia team. However, our current site does not meet the future ambitions of the company moving forwards. Presently, there are approximately 1,400 people employed by the company, and the growth is planned for up to 1,900 employees over the next 5 years. The company is actively engaging with the council's economic development team and careers hub to identify opportunities to work more closely together in the future. To do this, we need to make significant investment in our site and to create a world-class campus, which ensures that we not only attract the highest caliber of staff, but also attracts and retains sponsors. In addition, we have ambitious sustainability objectives to become net zero by 2030. The proposed master plan contains several key elements, including the construction of 2 new buildings on site. The marketing building will be a showcase centre for the team and our global partners, forming an impactful entrance to the home of the world's most successful Formula One team and a gateway to Brackley. The team enjoys one of the highest value sponsorship portfolios in global sport, and we aspire to construct a world-class facility to match this status. The Health and Wellbeing Centre will combine a replacement staff restaurant, training facilities, including a new gym, and extensive provisions for staff to enhance their health and well-being in the interest of sustained human performance. The creation of these buildings allows us to better utilise our existing buildings and for us to improve our facilities further. It's proposed to erect a new car park in the northeast corner of the site. The car park will be covered in a solar PV canopy and will provide electric charging points for electric vehicles. The proposed new car park means we're able to transform the main site, which is currently dominated by car parking, and replace it with landscaping to create a parkland campus incorporating extensive tree and shrub planting. This will provide a biodiversity net gain of at least 10%. As part of the landscaping scheme, a covered walkway will run through the site, acting as a wayfinder and providing additional opportunity for solar PV panels. The proposed landscaping scheme will incorporate spaces for staff to work and spend time. During the application process, we've actively engaged with the local highways authority to ensure that any impact on the highway network is minimised. As a result, several off-site works were proposed. These include the widening of Oxford Road and increasing the length of the right turn lane in St James's Road to accommodate 7 cars instead of 5. Alterations to the Oxford Road, Lauder Drive, Tesco's roundabout to provide 2 lanes north and south through the roundabout. Double yellow lines along St James's Road and addition of hatched boxes outside the police and fire stations. We'll also have improvements to the cycle route along Oxford Road. Furthermore, a travel plan has been submitted as part of the application, which provides measures to encourage a modal shift away from cars for the travel plan lifetime. In addition, we provided a car park management plan and significant incidents protocol to minimise the impact of traffic movements at peak times on the users and occupiers of St James's Road. As part of this application, Mercedes aims to honour its role as a major employer and a responsible citizen in the local community, enhancing the profile of Brackley through the construction of a world-class technology campus.
You have 1 further minute, sir.
Thank you. Councillors, I thank you for your time this afternoon and respectfully ask that the scheme is permitted in line with the officer's recommendations. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Smith. Questions for Mr. Smith? Yes, councillor Herring, please.
One of the issues I think has been raised is the delay that there might be in going through the gatehouse and the proposed St James's Road. Do you have, how do you deal with the security when you've got everybody, all the employees coming in? Have you got vehicle registration recognition, number plate recognition, or do they have to show a pass, or can you explain that to me? Thank you.
Okay, on the existing entrance that we have on the Tesco's roundabout, basically early in the morning when people come into site, all the cars have a sticker in them which indicates they're a Mercedes employee. A lot of the staff are known to the security guards as well. We've got 24-man security. When people drive in the mornings, they're waved through. Anyone who doesn't have a sticker is pulled aside and checked. So that ensures that we don't actually stop people at the barriers at all. They drive straight into the site. And that alleviates any potential issues with us getting queuing and things. Now, the proposal we have here is to do exactly the same process on St James's Road. So there will be a manned security guard, hence the gatehouse, and they would literally manage every single car through. And all the staff have stickers, so they will be driven, they'll drive straight through.
And you've got within the site, you've got a place to pull people over if they're querying where they're going and visiting or whatever.
Yeah, there's a small lay-by just part of the gatehouse where they can pull people in. The proposal on Saffron Building, which is the St James's Road entrance, is we do a similar thing there.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, councillor Russell, please.
Thank you for your presentation. We've heard from 2 businesses this afternoon, thriving businesses that have been situated on St James Road for some time. Both individuals or both businesses representatives have said that Mercedes has not consulted with them on any of the development. Can you explain this?
Yes, we undertook to consult with all of the local people through the council. I can say categorically we've not had any contact, as far as we're aware, from any of the local businesses directly. Our email accounts and contact systems are monitored continuously, so we would have picked those up, as we have done from any other contacts we've had directly. So we're unaware of any direct contact, I'm afraid.
So there's no opportunity for you to walk along the pavement past these businesses and say, how are you doing? What do you think of the changes? What do you think of the developments?
There would have been an opportunity, yes, but we didn't do that to start with, because I said we were going to do that through the councils. And then obviously when it became apparent that the way that the works to the road were progressing, we haven't moved forwards to try and create some sort of group or get together with them.
Councillor Gonzalez de Savages first, yes, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Smith, thank you very much for the opportunity this afternoon to come here and go through your grand plans for your site, of which obviously we're very welcoming for your investment to the area. We appreciate obviously that you don't have that many local employees, so majority of your employees will be accessing the site by vehicle and obviously will need to park. As a good neighbourly policy, do you have one? Is there a way you could share your multi-storey car park with the residents around in terms of the businesses around you? And could you retain Lauder Drive as your principal access? Because quite clearly you have an established access, which is very clear, and you've just indicated to colleagues here how it flows and how obviously you have a reputation of not building up traffic queues on that system there. Is there a way you could certainly encourage a better relationship? Because quite clearly we've had that communication come through now on a number of occasions, including also from Brackley Town Council, about that lack of engagement as well from some of the residents. So it would be helpful to see. And also, as you are building a health and wellbeing centre, and the council is very much for that as well, could you not share that? And I know how successful it is in Brixworth, your site there. Would that be a potential opportunity as well?
Okay, several questions in there. First one to do with car parking. We currently have 160 car parking spaces that we share with Brackley Town Football Club. So they use that car parking on their weekends and evenings to alleviate the problems along the local residential road there. So that already happens. The main car park within the building would be, or within the main site, would be very difficult because of security provisions. We're obviously a very high security site. And that is very difficult for us to allow access for general people within the site. So it would be extremely difficult for us to do that. But where we can, we have helped out the local community, yes. And that includes the Health and Wellbeing Centre as well. Again, because it's right in our site, it'd be very difficult for us to manage security with people coming in.
Just to throw it through you, Mr. Chairman, that clearly that the car parking can be open, but your building access points could be sealed. So there would be a way of managing that flow if you wanted it to, but also the louder drive element in terms of having that single stream of traffic coming through there.
Yeah, we looked at different options on how we could access the site and the new car parking. And ultimately, splitting our access through two access routes seems to be the best operation for that to actually work. And you can always argue one way or the other, I'm sure, but from our own personal point of view, when we looked at this and from the operation, that felt like the best solution.
Councillor Pritchard, please.
Thank you, Chair. With regards to other activities, you mentioned the America's Cup and so on. And it was just a particular question where do you actually envisage any further growth over 1,900 employees in this site? Because obviously that could affect the situation with regards to traffic in the short term. I appreciate that your programme is over the next 4 years, but having said that, I'm sure that you must be looking further than 4 years hence.
Yes, we feel that growth beyond 1,900 is unlikely in the long term.
Any more questions? Yes, sorry, Councillor Humphries, please.
Thank you very much. You've heard the presentation from the Director of Travis Perkins that their very busy time between 7:30 and 9:30, the majority of their daily customers are numbered sort of 70 to 100 come within that period. We're told they have 6 to 8 employees arriving then, plus an HGV. That's just one unit in the whole of St James's Road. Can you give committee members an absolute assurance that all those movements have been calculated in your assessment of traffic movements in that road? And we know that there's on-street parking there at the moment, which is going to disappear with the double yellow lines. Where are those cars proposed to park, as there won't be parking available then after the proposed TRO? Thank you.
Okay, sorry, I was just checking something. So the modelling is based on existing business movements, our increase in business movements, and also includes existing permitted developments within Brackley as well on top. So yes, it's the maximum, as far as we're aware, the maximum number of vehicles that could use those roads at any time. So that answers that. In terms of the yellow lines, the yellow lines are proposed on the northern side only of the road, not on both sides. That seems to be slightly unclear. The northern side already has signage asking people not to park there because they block the road if they do. So all we're doing is asking to formalise what is already currently signed along that road. So that's the yellow line. Okay.
Councillor Stone, please.
Thank you. I'm really interested to know how you're going to reach net zero by 2030, but I also wanted to know if there are going to be many vehicle movements around and inside the site, and how, and if there are, how you're going to protect the air quality actually on the site.
Okay, air quality question, yes. Okay, so in terms of vehicle movements within the sites, there's always vehicle movements within the sites, cars moving around. We have some HGVs, but we don't have large numbers of HGV movements. So if we relate that back to 2030 and how we deal with air quality and sustainability, we ran our trucks last year on biofuels, which reduced the emissions by 80%. Our proposal is to carry on running our trucks on biofuels so that our trucks are incredibly green compared to other vehicles on the roads. In terms of cars, one of our big drives is to move towards electrification. And obviously that gives us an opportunity to reduce emissions and improve air quality significantly. This drive towards electrification is problematic to certain degrees, but one of the things we're doing as part of this application is increasing not only the amount of electricity that is available for electric charging, but also producing it by solar. So the idea being it's as green as we can make it. So the more drive and push we can have towards electrification, obviously the better the air quality will be. So our plan by towards 2030 is to bring far more electric vehicles in, and also to increase more of our electricity generation by green methods, in the hopes that eventually that will bring our emissions down significantly from where they are now. Yes. Okay.
Thank you. Any more questions? I'll have one myself then, Mr. Smith. You clearly have the occasional LGV coming onto your site and leaving your site. Which of the two entrances would the LGVs use?
So the process for LGVs or HGVs?
Lorries are always
Lorries.
Large, but not necessarily heavy.
Okay. Fine. So it's proposed to use the St. James's Road entrance for staff access in the mornings and evenings. Sorry. HGVs will carry on doing what they do now. HGVs will come in through the Lauder Road entrance. They will offload and then they will go out down the St. James Road entrance. So that's what we currently do. LGVs, which is mainly for our site delivery vans will continue to use the Lauder Road entrance, both in and out.
Okay, thank you, sir. Quick check, there's any more questions? If not, thank you very much indeed, Mr. Smith. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Right, Andrew, have you got any comebacks on discussions that's gone on with the questioner, please? Or James?
Yeah, obviously much of the debate is impact on St James Road. I was just going to cite paragraph 8.21 in the report. So Highways colleagues have mentioned the sort of worst 15 minutes and the sort of queuing impacts. But in terms of a typical impact on in terms of queuing to the exit of St James Road during the peak PM hour, as set out in paragraph 8.21, you've got a delay of only 11 seconds, 2 cars queuing. So we're not talking about significant highway impacts here. So I just wanted to emphasize that point, that there's a lot of reference I'm hearing to sort of absolute worst case scenarios, but clearly there are significant economic development benefits to this proposal, and what your officers in conjunction with Highways College have tried to do is to mitigate impacts as far as possible. So there is a lot of traffic mitigation impacts, the travel plan, the as Andrew explained in his presentation, the kind of road widening, the changes to the roundabout. There is a lot there that has, and some of it has been developed during the determination of the application to ensure we are going as far as possible to address the concerns raised by businesses on St James Road. And I just wanted to say on the point of consultation that as a local planning authority, we have tried to consult fully, and I'm very confident we've exceeded statutory requirements on this application. And there was a sort of further consultation mid-determination on additional highways information, and that was sort of shared with all the local businesses and their respective consultants. Thank you, Chairman.
Anything more from you, Andrew? Okay, so we're now into the debate. I'll remind you, we do have two highways experts at the end of the table. And obviously a lot of your thoughts are around highways and such like, so please utilise them as well as Andrew, the officer, during the debate. So who wants to open the debate? Councillor Herring, please join in.
Why not? I mean, Brackley really are thrilled to host Mercedes and we're very proud to do that. And we know that they have significant economic benefit to the town as well. I mean, you've only got to see the queues for the sandwich shops to realise that you know, their employees are very much in the heart of the town, and we're very pleased with that. However, this change in terms of the buildings and how it's sited and visuals, don't have any problems with that. It does seem to primarily focus on the access. And I don't have any problems with the proposed yellow lines. I did actually go back and drive down St James's Road just before coming to this meeting to see what the situation was on parking, and a lot of the on-street parking, I would say, was lazy parking. It wasn't because they didn't have adequate proper parking areas to go to. So I don't have a problem with that, because it's actually not having obstructions on that road actually helps everybody, all the businesses down there. And I'm sure the adequate parking was approved when the whole of the site was given planning permission in the first place. Not all of it is being properly used, but I am worried about the implications. We are being asked to trust experts. I wonder whether it isn't possible to have a trial of closing the Lauder access, and just proving to us that in practicalities that the whole thing does work. And I am asking, should we be minded to give this approval? What levers do you have if actually all of this expert advice proves not to be the case? I mean, we have the potential to either work together to make this work smoothly for everybody, or it could be a complete dog's breakfast. And I just I'm concerned that we haven't actually properly tested the implications, and I don't want to see, you know, the whole of the area fall out over it. What if the advice that we've been given and all the assurances proves not to be the case? What can we do? I mean, do we, you know, close things down? What power do we have if we are not convinced that this actually does work?
Okay, thank
as
you.
proposed.
James will respond.
I kind of need members to look at condition 40, the access and car parking management plan. Because I think this actually does go some way to address the very concern that you're raising in effect. So this requires a review. That's the key point. So if, in terms of just going over the page, the second part of the condition, I can sort of, I will quickly read through the condition at speed. The accesses to the site and the new and existing car parks contained within the application effectively need to operate in accordance with the car park management and use plan for the Mercedes site. But here's the key point, which shall be reviewed in accordance with the scheme to be submitted to and approved in writing by the local planning authority prior to first use of the new multi-level car park. Review finds that additional measures are required to manage the car park and asset accesses to the site, then these shall be implemented in 2 months of the completion of the review and shall thereafter to continue to be operated in that manner. So the point I'm making is we've imposed a condition that does actually require a bit of a sort of iterative process to occur. So and it sort of goes back to the point, there is actually quite a lot of controls embedded in the decision we're asking members to approve.
And if we've given them planning permission and they've actually started digging up and planting trees and whatever, and we say, oh, actually, it's not actually working, you'll have to go back to what you did before. You know, at what point can we actually, you know, say that they can come back and say, well, you gave us planning permission to do that, so, you know, we're not going to revert back.
Yeah, so one point to bear in mind is both accesses are existing. And as you heard from the applicant, they effectively have a one-way in, one-way out system for the HGVs. So we're not actually talking about a totally new access here. The whole issue actually is to do with intensification of an access. And then we have various conditions that will in effect enable reviews. We've got the travel plan, we've got condition 40. So effectively they will give us a degree of influence over that intensification.
Yeah, I think it's the degree of influence or whether it can actually put a stop to it. And also in terms of, is the road access being kept clear? Because it shows that it's all landscaped and paved and pedestrianised.
Yeah.
I think it is being a sort of block paver. That block paver will be of a construction that can take the sort of vehicles that are being proposed. But what it's actually doing is narrowing it, so it doesn't take up as much room as part of that sort of park campus development.
So if this proves not to be the case, we can revert back to access through the existing one from the Tesco roundabout.
I think what condition 40 sets up is a review mechanism, so we can have a look at it and see what else needs to be done to make that access work.
And is there any way, I mean, you know, I'm quite of a mind to take on board the request to defer this until you've managed to speak to everybody, get everybody around the table to hammer the implications out. But you know, is there a role for the planners to actually bring the parties together rather than asking them to walk up and down the road and speak to people?
You won't always have a situation where everybody is happy with a planning application. That's unfortunately the case. Planning applications is always an element of sort of differing views on applications. Unfortunately, you as a committee ultimately end up having to decide whether to approve or refuse an application. Well, the key points we're trying to say as officers is we think there are massive economic development benefits, and that we think that there are a suite of conditions, the travel plan, the road improvements, that the sum of all those parts we think will have a bearing on both the traffic and the parking. And so our view as officers collectively is that we think that harm will be mitigated to such an extent that yes, there might be, that there will be some additional queuing, but not to such an extent that it's kind of causing any severe harm.
Thank you, James. Also like to remind committee we're considering what's in front of us. And if we do go for a deferment, what data or information is missing that we would gain by having a deferment? We've got a raft of information in front of us. And I'm not sure that holding up the process, we're going to get any more data or information that would enable us to make a more judgmental decision. That's a personal opinion, but I'll remind you, we're trying to do what's on in front of us. Councillor Stone, you're there.
Thank you very much. I take very seriously the economic benefit that this is going to bring to the area, and I do understand the reservations the businesses on St James Road have, but I think a lot of what they're saying is offset by the conditions, and I hope, you know, that will be proved to be true in the review. So I'm minded to accept the officer's recommendation, and I really am pleased with the aim of being net zero by 2030, and I was really pleased with the answer I was given to that question. Air quality remains a concern for me, so I would like that to be obviously it's going to be monitored continuously, so I'm pleased about that as well. And I think the chair's right that, you know, there's always going to be benefits and deficits, and it's a balancing act about whether the benefits outweigh the deficits. I think in this case, who am I? I don't have a business in St James. I might be wrong, but from what I've heard today, it seems that the benefits outweigh the risks.
Can I take that as a proposal at this stage?
You can do.
And you reserve the right to speak, yes? At a later stage. Okay, thank you. Councillor James, sorry, I missed you.
Thank you, Chairman. A little bit of humour before we start. On the bottom of page 26, about 3 lines from the bottom, there's a typo which refers to a significant indecent being declared rather than a significant incident. Page 26, 823. And it's actually the 4th line from the bottom. Right. Having said that, I've listened very carefully to everyone that's spoken this afternoon, and I thought about this at 2:35 this morning, because it has been worrying me a little bit about the position of the owners and occupiers of the premises in James Road that will be affected in some way by this proposal. And then I thought about it and I thought, well, I don't know, I've worked in places where there's been car parks with up to 1,000 cars in it, at universities, Leicester, at Birmingham and Loughborough, places like that. And, you know, when you think about it, we've always managed to get out. There's never been great queues, and we've got out of those sort of car parks, out onto roads that are used and shared by other people. In fact, in Leicester itself, I could never, ever remember being held up coming out of that car park in the centre there. So it does work out. The problem, though, is, and it was highlighted here by the speaker from Travis and Arnold. Travis and Arnold, as you know, is a highly respected and successful company that operates in this area too, quite a bit. And, you know, what they say is not to be dismissed lightly. It is a fact that builders do turn up early in the morning to collect materials from builders merchants. And they come and they wake you up early in the morning when they're dropping the stuff off, if you're having work done for them. That's an indisputable fact. And I can see some problems arising there. But having said that, after Councillor Herring spoke, and we will then refer to mitigating measures, it is possible, bearing in mind, you know, the experience that I've had coming out of big car parks and getting in, that this could work out all right. And if there are any hitches, that they could be overcome, especially if there's a review period. You'll know quite quickly if it's not going to work out. So I would be happy with the proposals, provided we stick rigidly to having a review to look at the matter, and that relations between the parties, and I suspect they're good, that those relations are maintained so that they can iron out the problems that may or may not arise, as the case may be. And I'd be quite happy to go along with officers' advice on that basis.
You're happy to second it, are you, Councillor James, and reserve the right to speak at a later stage?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, right. Councillor Manners, please.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, first of all, I fully support the development proposals apart from the traffic proposals. I mean, what Mercedes are proposing is to be welcomed, and their contribution to the local economy. I do take an extremely dim view of the lack of consultation by them, and slight arrogance in my view. There were 2 very coherent speakers, Mr. Wheeler and Mr. Pinney, who spoke very eloquently, and certainly is not to be dismissed. I just wonder whether we could actually strengthen the conditions to say that if it really does cause undue harm to them, that they will then reinstate Lauder Drive. I don't want to necessarily get into deferring this application, but I am really concerned about those 2 businesses and other businesses that are in St James's Road. And Lauder Drive is there. And the fact that they haven't consulted really is, as I say, I take a very dim view of that. And that should be pointed out to major applications in future, that they really must consult. I say that to local people, local applications, as much as I do to major applications. So James, is there any way we can strengthen the condition?
James?
I have an idea for an informative that members may welcome. In terms of the condition itself, I'm loath kind of to sort of almost on the hoof to sort of attempt to rewrite it. You could certainly delegate to officers to look at whether there's any way of strengthening it. With respect to the informative, I'm just thinking ahead. Condition 13 will be submitted to the local planning authority, and that's the construction method statement. I know from past experience that construction methods, effectively how a development is built, is always also of local interest. If a development is allowed to surrounding businesses, I'd actually wish to add a recommendation, an informative requesting that Mercedes consult local businesses on their construction method statement before submitting it to the local planning authority. So it will be up to the local planning authority in conjunction with the Harbour Authority to consider whether there's an appropriate construction method statement. But just thinking ahead, I think it would be good practice if Mercedes did liaise with local businesses
that's good
on that condition.
But 3 years out, if we find that it is unsustainable for people in that business, is there any way we can actually ask them to then revert to a more flexible use of Lauder Drive?
I think it was kind of alluded earlier in terms of a possibility of literally reverting to all of the staff just using Lauder Drive, and I think that's not what the applicant's applying for. So I think that's any kind of condition wording that implies that it is actually significantly altering the application to such an extent that it isn't actually the application the applicants applied for. Whereas
but the majority of the application surely is the construction of the new.
What we're trying to do is have a review mechanism that doesn't give us the power to turn the tap completely on and off, but does give us authority to slightly alter the flows, if that's the best way I think I can describe it. So in terms of your question, what can we tighten in effect? As I don't want to be rewriting condition 40 on the hoof, you could certainly delegate to the sort of head of planning to post committee liaise with the legal officer in terms of whether there's any tightening of the condition. But you'd have to just delegate that to us because
and delegate
I'm not looking at it think in terms of on the hoof in terms of any immediate thoughts in terms of
no that I accept that accept that. What I'd ask is the brief on that revision is to very much give much further protection to the business operators within St James's Road.
Yeah, so we can go away as officers. Before decisions made, I can liaise with the legal officer. We can perhaps talk to Mercedes about how strengthening it. I think Catherine's about to speak there, so I will pass to her at this juncture.
I'll ask James the deceased and call on Catherine to help me on this one, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just to assist on this, obviously, as our planning officers are mentioning, there is review mechanisms in condition 40. Now looking at potentially changing condition 13 to tighten that up, and an informative. The other side of the equation is that if the council at any time, once matters are up and running on site, is dissatisfied with what is being played out in on the ground, as it were, and how it's developing, and if the review process itself isn't working, there may be, and I say maybe because I'm not that familiar familiar with the highways powers, but there may be highways powers and enforcement terms over and above those that are in the condition side of things and the planning side. For planning, there will be potential enforcement options as well, depending on very much what comes up and whether or not we'll be looking at, for example, a breach of condition notice or other matters that are then coming across the wider part of the application process. So there are enforcement powers open to the council as well. They themselves have their own limitations, but we do have those options and powers for planning and for highways, as well as the conditions and the details of the application itself, if that assists.
Does that help you, councillor Manners?
Partially.
Councillor Herring, I saw you first.
Yeah, it does refer to that actually, because in the informative that was sent, you know, as a late submission, I noticed that one of their suggestions or recommendations is that the car management plan needs to be secured through a legal agreement and not a planning condition. And I just wondered what comment there might be on that.
Thank you, Chair. The car management plan can be secured either by a condition or by a legal agreement. On this occasion, it's been suggested that it is secured by a condition. Ordinarily, legal agreements are used to secure financial obligations in the first instance, or on other applications, affordable housing, those kinds of matters. It's not to say that you can't put highways matters or highways designs and things like that through that process in terms of how it's secured and trigger points accordingly. But on this occasion, it has been considered appropriate to do that through condition.
I think it's just a case of which one gives us the most strength.
James?
Well, the way you'd normally approach such a matter is if it can be dealt with by a planning condition, you would deal with it as a planning condition. And in this case, we consider that it can be dealt with as a planning condition. I'd also add that you can, in terms of enforcing either a condition or legal agreement, a breach of condition notice is actually one of the quickest, in practice, one of the quickest ways enforcement mechanisms open to us as a local planning authority. So, which is obviously another element of this. But in answer to your question, it can be dealt with, what we think, as a planning condition. So under such circumstances, you wouldn't necessarily normally be looking at turning it into a sort of complex legal agreement. So just to clarify, Chairman, so what I was suggesting was that condition 13, construction method statement, is subject and informative, basically stating that we would encourage the applicant to liaise with local businesses prior to submitting their construction method statement.
Okay, Councillor Parker, please.
Thank you, Chair. We keep going around in circles, I think. We keep coming back to St James Road. No one's mentioned actually the buildings going up and things like that. So we seem to have taken that for granted, which I think is absolutely right. Mercedes have got an access of St James's Road now, so they're entitled to use that road. I'm not sure how we actually stop that when they've got the permission. It seems to be the number of vehicles going down St James's Road. We've heard that basically you get waved through because they've got stickers in the cars. So I don't see that as a problem. I just don't understand where the issue is. I mean, the gentleman from Travis Perkins, 6 to 8 people, I think he said, are on site. But once they're in, they're in. And presumably, when they're offloading, unloading, they're offloading on their site, not on the public highway, unless they've got permissions, or obviously. But I don't know that. So I don't see that as an issue at all. And their entrance, when you're looking at the Travis Perkins site, is to the left, if I remember rightly, where Mercedes is to the right. So again, I just don't see any issues in this at all.
I don't see the point of only deferment because I just don't see where we're going to get to on this. This is a straightforward, can they access along St James's Road? And when we walked down there, I counted 4 cars parked on the road. There seemed to be plenty of spaces on the premises, but some people just wanted to park on the road. So I would actually go for officer's advice on this, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Parker. And I think you've summed it up. It's about intensification of use. It's not about a change of use or a new use. It's intensification. I saw, who did I see next? Councillor Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Pritchard.
Just a couple of points. One on 8.30 is not complete, the paragraph. So the sentence there that says the provision of the W lines is intended to ensure sufficient free flow of traffic along St James Road to ensure. Fill the blank. Sorry. Last 2 words should be deleted. Right. Okay, I'll do that. Thank you. The other element is clearly we are discussing intensification, and I absolutely concur with colleagues. We do support clearly Mercedes and their investment in the site. Absolutely, it's just how they get people in and out. It's mainly a highways issue here that we've been discussing, and clearly I'd love to see a really strong community engagement strategy from Mercedes, because quite clearly most of this conversation of ours this afternoon could be averted if they'd had a very good, and they have a very good relationship with those neighbouring doors of businesses and people who live around them and work around them. It is about that. It really is about them having to be proactive. I know that they used, Mr. Smith said that he was through the council consulting. We're not a consulting, we're not a consultation operation here for that use. Obviously, yes, we go out and put official notification out of applications that come in, absolutely. But it is surely for the applicants, Mr. Chairman, through you, to go out and actually do that work. And we'd encourage everyone to do that and bring it back to the full applications to help our officers to understand that our member colleagues here to also everyone be fully aware about how they've communicated their plans with the environment locally. So I'm a bit concerned also in terms, Mr. Chairman, of the element that Mr. Smith indicated that they currently open their car park to the football club, I believe, on weekends. If they do that, why can't they do it during the week as well to neighbouring businesses? Because there isn't a security issue there, because buildings, as we know, have pass cards. We've got them all here, and we've got members of the public within our buildings. It's all a matter of actually gauging the entry access points to areas, and the car parks can also be managed in the same way. I would love to see that and not give highways an issue, because I think they're trying to support us. But at the end of the day, finding a way that doesn't intensify traffic around the police and fire station is really important. On site, the buildings, they sound great, but absolutely what's happening off site is the condition that I think I'm concerned about. But thank you for the opportunity to speak.
To answer a couple of your points, the arrangements with the football club is on match days, or will that be in a Tuesday night or a Saturday afternoon when there's less intensive use of the car park? And that is not accessed from James's Road. It's accessed from, I never know the name of the road that goes down to the football club. I'm sure somebody in Brackley will tell me, but they come in that way. It's the top car park in addition to their own car park. So that's not really available to St James or local residents. It's purely for the match day type stuff from that aspect. I've got Councillor Pritchard next, then Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, I've read fully the report, and also obviously listening to some of the speakers. I think this particular proposal is very worthwhile when you think of it. It's really a cosmetic proposal. Obviously, the buildings inside, are very, very acceptable. And I actually take my hat off to Mercedes-Benz thinking about how they compete from a premises perspective of Red Bull, Aston Martin and McLaren. And I think that is very, very worthwhile when it comes to that. When you think of all the employee and also the economy that they're going to bring to this area, I think is extremely acceptable. And I would certainly recommend that we accept this particular proposal. Also, if I can actually say that perhaps we could actually endorse the proposition and also the endorsement of my colleagues actually, and go to vote and accept this proposal.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Pritchard. Councillor Hareman was next to catch my eye.
On the the late submissions, there's quite a few points about, and I can see their frustration about contacts. And I wondered whether we could add a condition that said there should be a point of contact at Mercedes on road and car parking issues to at least allow, I think they've said one part they've said about a traffic warden. Well, of course, you've got somebody at the gate anyway, so presumably there, but they have asked for a 24-hour point of contact, phone contact. Well, maybe at least between the hours of 7 and 7 that they could have a dedicated point of contact if they are experiencing difficulties, if they're having deliveries that can't get through or whatever, just to enhance this this feeling that they can actually control the situation and work together. Would that be possible?
As I understand it, that there is this traffic plan which incorporates a person that's monitoring that plan and administering it.
I mean,
So
I'm sure the council don't want to take on this
Well, no, of
role,
course,
so it
no.
would be very useful if we could condition it to be Mercedes' problem rather than the council's.
Are you going to say something, James? Or? So I thought that was included within the traffic, the plan. Well, you can speak.
I mean, it could be an informative on the planning commission, which said it would be good practice for them to provide that information. So that basically that can then circulate that information to all the residents on St James.
It'd be helpful for, I'm sure, the council and councillors, you know, if we get complaints or whatever, to know that there is a point of contact, as obviously because they're a very large organisation, and we've already heard that maybe emails have gone astray or not gone to the right person. So to know that there is a point of contact if we get complaints as councillors, let alone planning officers, that we can go to and say, there's an issue there, there's parking on the road, somebody can't get the deliveries in, or whatever the complaint is. It would be useful to have a dedicated point of contact.
Okay.
Catherine would like to come in this point.
I think we may struggle in terms of a condition and enforceability, insofar as it may not always be Mercedes employees or visitors or deliveries that are contributing to a particular pinch point or issue at a particular moment. It may be a combination of other factors on the site, for example, or in the surrounding area. And so I think from a condition point of view, enforceability may be challenging. However, an informative, don't want to overdo the informatives on any particular matter, but that might be the way forward, so that there is a point of contact for sort of particular crunch points that might occur from time to time.
At least maybe for the first year until we see it settle in, it would be really helpful, and particularly probably through the construction period as well.
Okay, yes, we'll consider that. The other bit I was going to come back when Councillor Savage said about you were surprised that Mercedes went through us as opposed to going direct to the neighbours. I don't find that unusual because this is a planning application which we're actually monitoring and determining. And by that route, they're going through the application goes through the case officers. The case officers then aware of traffic from both directions. So I don't think it's that unusual that the applicant would go through the council and not necessarily talk to his neighbours. Just my opinion.
So just for clarification, Chairman, officers are recommending 2 additional informatives that both relate to consultation with local businesses and residents, in effect, in addition to the recommendations set out in the report.
Okay, so we've debated this long and hard and well. Do we any more that we want to go? Or are we at a point where I'm not necessarily going to read out what the all the conditions are because I might miss something. So, James, do you want to tell us what we're voting on? We have a proposer from Councillor Stone. We have a seconder from Councillor James. Do you want to read out what we believe we are voting for at this stage, please?
Yes, it's the recommendations that the Assistant Director for Planning and Development be given delegated powers to grant permission for the development subject to conditions as set out in the report, and delegate authority to delete or vary those conditions and subject to the completion of a legal agreement. And that relates to the additional parking restrictions on St James Road and the pavement of £5,000 for travel plan monitoring. It's the conditions set out as set out in full in the report, with two additional informatives that both relate to the consultation that expectations we have as an authority from the applicant in terms of both condition 40 and condition 13.
Can we make the two exhibits in conjunction also with the chairman of this committee? Because being we've come up with that, can I be involved in it?
Yes, we'd be quite happy to run those two informatives through you as a chairman before they are put on the final decision notice.
Okay, so Councillor Stone has proposed it. Do you want to say anything further?
No, I'm happy with the discussion and the conclusions to it. Thank you.
Councillor James has seconded. Do you want to say anything else? So we're now going to the vote to accept what James has just said. Those in favour of what has been proposed, please show. I believe that is unanimous. Thank you very much indeed. So that is passed. There is no other business on the agenda, so I declare this meeting closed at 3:55, and thank you for your attendance. Thank you now.